Morning, everybody. It's Miss Sprunger. Today is October 7th, and it's Wednesday. We're going to go ahead and get started with class. Yesterday, obnoxious bell. Yesterday, we were able to see we were able to dive a little bit deeper into one solution, no solution, and all real numbers or infinite solutions. So today, we're going to kind of take it in a different direction. We're also going to be discussing rational equations this week. But before we get started with that, we're going to go ahead and do a quick do now. So please go ahead and get out your calculators, pencils, notebooks, work on the following problems. So this first one, it says -8 plus 2k equals 2k minus 3. Now, if we highlight our variable terms and highlight our constant terms, we can go ahead and start solving. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to draw my line down the middle. So everything's simplified on both sides. I can't combine any like terms. There's no parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is where we would start moving the smaller variable term over. But if we look at this, we've got 2k and 2k. So neither of them are smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and just subtract 2k from both sides. Those are going to cancel. I'm going to go ahead and bring down both of my constants. I'm going to have -8 equals -3. And that's really all I can do with this. So -8 equals -3. And if you guys recall from yesterday when we did no solution, all real numbers, and one solution, when we've got a number equaling a different number, that's when we have no solution. And we can also write it like this. So no solution on that first one. On the second one, I'm going to go ahead and look at my equation. It says -8n plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 equals 6 minus 5n. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight my variable terms, and then I'm going to highlight my constant terms in green. So I've got 8, 8, 8, and 6. I'm going to draw my line down the middle. Then I want to look at this. On the left side, is there anything that I can simplify, combine? Yes, I can. So I've only got one variable term, but I've got 3 constants. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring down my -8n because I'm not going to do anything with that yet. But those 3 8s can just be added up. So you can just, whenever you've got a ton of terms, oops, one second, I will definitely need my calculator today with what we're doing. I'm going to have 8 plus 8 plus 8. And when you hit enter, you should get 24. So equals 24. So I'm going to cross those out because I combined those terms. Equals, can I combine or simplify on the right side? No, I'm going to go ahead and bring down 6 minus 5n. I'm going to grab my highlighter again. I'm going to highlight -8n, -5n, and then I'm going to highlight 20. Oh, I tried to do that in green. It didn't work. So I've got my constants in green, variables in yellow. Everything's simplified on either side. So I'm going to go ahead and move my smaller variable term over. So I'm looking at -8n and -5n, thinking which one is smaller, -8n. So I'm going to go ahead and add 8n to both sides. That's going to cancel. I'm going to bring down 24 equals 6 is coming down, -5n plus 6 or plus 8n. So -5n plus 8n is going to give me +3n. So that's going to simplify down there. We're going to have our variables on the right, and we still have constants on either side of the equal sign. So we still need to do something about those. Remember, we want variables on one side, constants on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and move that 6 over to the left, so -6 on both sides, because 6 minus 6 cancels and brings it on over to the left. 24 minus 6 gives me 18 equals, I'm going to bring down my 3n. And finally, I've got 18 equals 3n. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 3 so I can get n by itself. N is going to equal 18 divided by 3, which gives me 6. All right. Let me know if you have any questions about anything that we do today. So this is our do now, just a review of what we did yesterday. So next, we're going to move on with what are we doing today? So what is a rational equation? I kind of mentioned that at the beginning of class. We're going to be talking about rational equations. So a rational equation is similar to what we've been working on previously. The only difference is the addition of decimals and fractions. So we're going to kind of work on these multi-step equations, but we're including decimals and fractions. So don't panic. It's not that scary. I've got a picture of a calculator up here. If you don't have this calculator, you need to get it because you're going to use it in high school, and it's super important for this class, so you definitely need it. A few buttons that I want to point out. This decimal point right here is going to be super important for entering decimals correctly. This button right here that I'm circling, this negative button, that's going to be important for entering negative. So you just, anytime you want to enter like a -3, you would press that button and then 3. And then finally, this is like the big one that's super important, and this ABC button. This is going to be very important when entering a fraction. So say I wanted to enter 2/4 into my calculator, I would do 2 ABC 4. So that is going to act as like your fraction bar. Same thing if you want to enter a mixed number, so 1 and 3/4, you would enter 1, press the ABC button, 3, press the ABC button, 4, enter. So that would give you a mixed number. So when you do a mixed number, so where we've got the whole number and then the fraction attached, that's when we want to press it twice. So we'll review this today while we're going through examples, but just make sure that you guys are aware of that moving forward. All right, it looks scary, but you guys are going to be just fine. So still, and I think now more than ever, it's super important to highlight. So I'm going to pick one color and I'm going to highlight constants. So I don't see a variable term attached, so I'm going to say that's a constant. Variable, and then we've got -3/4 is also a constant. Over here, this looks like a variable term because it's got that P attached to it. So I've got my constants and my variables identified. So now everything's simplified on both sides. So now this is where we start saying, okay, what is the smaller variable term? And I know with fractions it's hard, but for this one it's actually nice and obvious. So we've got -3/2 p or 1/6 p. Well, 1/6 is greater than 0 and -3.5 p is going to be way smaller than 0. So I'm going to go ahead and add 3.5 p to both sides. That's going to cancel. I'm going to bring down, and this is super important to be nice and organized, I'm going to bring down -8 1/12 equals, and then I've got to combine these fractions. So I want you all to pick up your calculators. I want you to type in 1, ABC, 6. So we're adding 1/6 to 3.5. So 1/6, so 1 ABC 6, it should look like that in your calculator right now, plus 3 ABC 1 ABC 2. So 1/6 plus 3.5 is going to give us 3 2/3 p. And then I'm also going to bring down my other constant, -3/4. All right, still doing okay. I'm going to go ahead and highlight my constants. I'm going to highlight my variables. All right, even though there's decimals, fractions involved in this problem, we still know we need to get constants on one side, variables on the other. We've got all of our variable terms on the right, so I'm going to want to move this -3/4 to the left. So I'm going to move 3/4 over to the left. So negative 3/4, I can add that, or I can move that by adding it. So I'm gonna add 3/4 both sides. That's gonna cancel. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to stay organized. Okay, so now we're gonna add, so negative, remember that negative button, if we're looking at our calculator, our negative button is right here. So right at the bottom next to the decimal point. So we're gonna enter negative 8 and 1/12, sorry, so negative 8, ABC 1, ABC 12. So it should look, I know I'm trying to like make it so you guys can see it. So negative 8 and 1/12 plus 3 ABC 4. That's going to give us negative 7 and 1/3 equals, I'm going to bring down my variable, 3 and 2/3 P. All right, last thing we've actually, besides these being fractions, are actually not too much more complicated than what we've seen. So these are fractions, yes, but we've got our variables on one side, we've got our constants on the other. So now to get P by itself, we're gonna divide both sides by 3 and 2/3. So we're gonna divide both sides by 3 and 2/3. So P is gonna equal, now in your calculator, you're gonna enter negative 7, ABC 1, ABC 3, so negative 7 and 1/3, divided by 3, ABC 2, ABC 3. And you guys should get negative 2. All right, so make sure we're, sorry, I have something in my eye, guys. Make sure that you're asking questions, make sure you're staying organized, bringing things down when you need to bring them down. I would recommend doing this on lined paper, just so you can write down each space, each step on each space. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. So up here, we've got another problem, another one with fractions. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna highlight our variable terms. So negative 2 and 1/4 B is a variable term. 11/6 B is also a variable term. And then if I'm looking at my constants, I've got positive 1 and negative 3 and 1/12. So I've got a few different, I've got 2 of each type of term. I'm gonna go ahead and draw my line down the middle. Now, this is the part where we've got a constant and a variable on either side of the equal sign. So we want to go ahead and compare our variable terms. So we've got negative 2 and 1/4 B and 11/6 B. So we want to think which one is smaller. Well, that negative one is obviously smaller because it's a negative number. So we're going to go ahead and move that negative 2 and 1/4 B. We're going to move it to the right side. So we're going to do that by adding it. So I'm going to add 2 and 1/4 B to both sides. Well, negative 2 and 1/4 B plus 2 and 1/4 B cancels. So on this side, I'm just going to bring down 1. And this is the part where we pick up our calculators. So we're going to enter, remember, if we're looking at our calculators, we're going to enter using that ABC button because we want to make sure we're entering our calculator. So right under that PRB is your ABC button. So I'm going to go ahead and enter 11 because right now what I'm doing is I'm adding 11/6 to 2 1/4 in my calculator. So 11 ABC 6 plus 2 ABC 1 ABC 4. You hit enter. We've got 4 and 1/12. So I've got 4 and 1/12 b when I combine those. And then I'm also going to bring down -3 1/12. All right. I'm going to take my highlighter again. I'm going to identify my variable terms. I'm going to identify my constants. So I've got all of my variable terms, or my yellow ones, on the right side. And remember, our goal is to get all variables on one side, all constants on the other. So I'm going to get, I'm going to move that -3 1/12. I'm going to move that over to the left so I can have all of my variable terms by themselves. So what I'm going to do, well, this is in purple. I'm going to add 3 1/12 to both sides so I can move that. Because remember, to get rid of to move a negative term, you're going to go ahead and add, and that's going to cancel on the right. So all we're doing is we're taking 1 plus 3 1/2, which, or 3 1/12, which is the same thing as, it's pretty easy to do in our head, which is 4 1/12, but I'm still going to make sure I'm right. I'm going to add it in my calculator. I'm going to take 1 plus 3 ABC 1 ABC 12. I'm going to hit enter. And I've got 4 1/12 equals, and I'm going to bring down my variable term, 4 1/12 B. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and divide, because I've got variables on one side, constants on the other. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 4 1/12. So 4 1/12. All right, so 4 1/12 divided by 4 1/12 is going to give me B by itself. Without entering this in our calculator, I know when I have a number divided by itself, it's just going to give me 1. However, I am going to enter it in the calculator just to make sure I know how to use it nice and easy. 4 ABC 1 ABC 12 divided by 4 ABC 1 ABC 12. And that's going to give me +1. So B equals 1 is our answer. All right, make sure you're asking any questions if you have them. If you're not sure why I'm doing something, again, I would suggest doing this on lined paper just because it's easier to stay organized when you have those lines kind of as you're progressing through your steps. All right, we're going to go ahead and shift from our fractions, and we're going to shift into decimal world, which actually isn't, I think decimals are easier than the fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my highlighter. I'm going to highlight, so I've got 2.9 minus 2.8 m equals 13.32 plus 2.41 m. So I'm going to highlight my constants, so those numbers that don't have a variable. I'm going to highlight my variable terms as well. So I've got my 2 different types of terms highlighted in different colors. So nothing on either side needs to be simplified. There's no combining of like terms. There's no distributive property. So I'm just going to go ahead, now that everything's identified, I'm going to look at my 2 variable terms. I've got -2.8 m and I've got +2.41 m. Remember, we want to move whichever one is smaller. So -2.8 m is going to be smaller. So I'm going to move that over. And I can move that by adding it because it's a -2.8, so I can go ahead and add 2.8 m to both sides. I'm going to go ahead and bring down my 2.9. I'm going to bring down my 13.32. And then I need to go ahead and pick up my calculator. And I'm going to go ahead and enter 2.41 plus 2.8. That's going to give me 5.21 m. All right, I've got 2.9, 13.32. So I've got constants on either side of the equal sign, but I've got a variable on the right. So I want to go ahead and move my 13.32 over to the left. And I want to do that because if you notice, my variable term is all by itself already. So if I just move that 13.32 over, it's going to be by itself, and I'll have constants on the left, variables on the right. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I can move that 13.32 by subtracting it. Oops. I'm going to restart with that. I'm going to subtract it from both sides. All right. So over here on the left, we're going to enter 2.9 minus 13.32. And we're going to get negative 10.42 equals, I'm going to bring down, I've got 5.21 in. I've got my variable terms on the right, I've got constants on the left. I can go ahead and divide both sides by 5.21. Remember, we're trying to get m by itself, so 5.21m divided by 5.21 just gives me m by itself. And then I've got negative 10.42 divided by 5.21. So in your calculator, negative, and remember, if you don't know where that negative button is, it's right down here next to your decimal point. So enter that negative in before you enter your 10. So negative 10.42 divided by 5.21. And you guys should get negative 2. All right, I'm gonna leave this up here for a second so you guys can finish writing it down. Think of any questions you might have. If you're wondering why I'm doing something, how I'm doing something, just make sure you're asking me. All right. We're gonna move on to the next one. So I've got 6.2r minus 5.9 equals 14.46, or I'm sorry, not 14, 4.46 plus 4.8r. So make sure you get this one written down. Once you get this written down, go ahead and take out a marker or your highlighter and highlight your variable terms. So I've got 6.2r and 4.8r. So those are our variable terms. I'm going to take my other color, I'm going to highlight my constants, so those terms that don't have a variable in them. Now, there's nothing to simplify on either side, so I'm going to compare my two variable terms and think which one is smaller, 6.2r or 4.8r. 4.8r is going to be smaller. I'm going to go ahead and subtract it. I'm going to move it over to the left by subtracting 4.8r from both sides. So we're going to pick up our calculators and type in 6.2 minus 4.8. That's going to give me 1.4r. I'm going to bring down my constant, negative 5.9. And then I'm going to bring down my other constant, 4.46. All right, I'm going to go ahead and highlight my variable term, highlight my constant term. So I'm noticing I've got my variable on the left, but I've got a constant on either side. So I'm going to go ahead and move my negative 5.9 over so I can get all my variables on the left and all my constants on the right. So I'm going to move negative 5. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Didn't mean to do that. I'm struggling, guys. That's okay. I'm going to move negative 5.9 by adding it. So I'm going to add 5.9 to both sides. That's going to cancel. I'm going to go ahead and bring down 1.4r equals, then we've got 4.46 plus 5.9. So in your calculator, 4.46 plus 5.9. Now I've got 10.36. All right, we've got our variables on the left, constants on the right. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 1.4. And you guys remember, I'm doing this because I want to get r by itself. And right now, r is being multiplied by 1.4. So to undo that, I'm going to divide. So 1.4r divided by 1.4 just gives me r on its own. Then in your calculators, you're going to take 10.36 divided by 1.4. You should get 7.4. All right, any questions about this one? No questions. All right, so today we kind of looked at what a rational equation is. So it's just the equation solving that we've been practicing for weeks. The only difference is that we're including decimals and fractions. So tomorrow we're going to do more rational equations. We're going to introduce the distributive property and combining like terms to rational equations, which really shouldn't be that crazy, but it looks way more intimidating than it is. But you've got your handy dandy calculator with you and you guys will be just fine. You guys, we're going to go ahead and take a look at your Google Classroom page really quick. So remote CP math, if you go into classwork, here's this week. So here, all of your lessons are online. So if you want to ever click on any of these lessons, this is what we've done so far this week. Remember, you've got an exit ticket that's due tomorrow. That's going to be over rational equations. And then you've got rational equation practice. That's just a completion grade. So you guys just have to attempt it, do your best on it. And then you've got quiz 2 that's due October 11th. So just make sure you're studying, asking questions, watching videos if possible. Yeah, I think, so that's going to be about it for class today. If you don't have any questions, feel free to go. I marked your guys' attendance, so whoever's here is here. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask them now, but if you don't have questions, you're free to go.